Here's a crazy thought. If I were to get a review of a previous Reno I've made on this channel and present it as the review of the Reno 11 F5G with different imagery, you won't know, and I won't be lying to you in any way. I believe I've said this many times. OPPO found a formula and ran with it. Yes, the formula still works and we still see it very clearly with the Reno 11 F5G. This is a slightly refined phone that's still in the same price range with previous Reno devices. It still lacks the same things that other Reno devices have lacked. It still packs the same things that other Reno phones have shined with, and it is still a good long-term use device to consider. When you unbox it, OPPO is still offering you the same experience they always have. It still has super fast charging, an incredible AMOLED display, and dust and splash resistance. It also still offers very clean software that's full of customization options. Let's talk about it a little more. One of the things I always love about switching to an OPPO Reno device when reviewing one is the shock that a phone can be so light on the hand. The body of the Reno 11 F5G is mostly plastic. I know that's a material that tends to be very light, especially when you compare it to glass finish phones with steel or titanium frames. But you won't know or even notice that the finish is plastic. The device shines outdoors and feels good to hold and use on a daily. My major dislike is that there is a single speaker at the bottom of the device. No stereo sound. It's not fair for this price point, and it's crazy that the OPPO A60, which I've also been using, has dual speakers, but is the more affordable phone. The single speaker means you'll need Bluetooth headphones if you want good sound quality. For all types of content you will require sound. This is the same 6.7-inch size display we've been accustomed to with OPPO Reno devices. This time round though, there are a couple of nice features around panel brightness. The peak brightness now gets to 1100 nits. It's very usable outdoors, and even though I can say there are better displays I've used, for the price point, there is nothing really to complain about. What I can't stand behind is the lack of necessary certifications for HDR playback on Netflix. If you're using YouTube, HDR activates without any issues. So it's just an update that's required for HDR to work on Netflix. Will OPPO issue one? I can't tell. If you're someone who watches lots of Netflix content, that's a thing to consider. I am never one to care so much about comparisons and benchmarks, so very rarely will you find me going into detail about the same in a review. I try out what matters to me and give you feedback. So, if you're like me, sometimes you play games, but most times you're just browsing socials, using Chrome or ChatGPT, using TikTok and CapCut, you won't have issues with this phone. The MediaTek 7050 plus the 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage is pretty standard. But also, if it works, it works. The best part, especially moving from the Galaxy S24 base model, is that this phone doesn't heat up. I've had it plugged and tethering 5G data to my other devices while driving under very hot conditions, and the phone held up with no issues, not even warm to the touch. Maybe I'm not a good reference point for good battery life, since, as I've pointed out, I'm not a very heavy user. But I like to think that what I've been getting is what many of you will be getting, which is a full day of use with about 15 to 20% to spare. It charges really fast, so if you're a person who keeps your battery between 20 and 80%, you won't have to wait long for a top-up. Under settings, you can choose to have smart charging, where the phone will learn your habits and charge accordingly, or to have it stop at 80%, which helps with battery aging. While numbers don't matter, people are still, in some sense, attracted to the idea that huge cameras are better cameras. That's why the back of this phone looks like it does. For some, this look is great. For others, they would prefer a camera system that's more laid back. I personally don't mind it. The huge bump means it won't wobble on a table when laying flat. The included case also eats up a portion of the camera bump. The main 64-megapixel camera is the highlight of this phone. That and the selfie camera. The other lenses are good aesthetic inclusions. The phone can shoot up to 4K 30fps with a 64-megapixel lens. There's a mode called Ultra Steady, which is really good, but it can only do 1080p 60fps maximum. The front camera can do 4K 30fps maximum. It also supports Ultra Steady mode, limited to 1080p 30fps. There used to be a lot of softness with Reno images. I can't say I've noticed that this time round. Tell me your thoughts about the camera from the pics and videos shared. There are a couple of things to talk about. Firstly, there's the promise of software updates. This phone will get 300 updates. Secondly, there's the assurance of clean software. ColorOS is very clean, but not boring clean. It allows you to customize it in very many ways and make it uniquely yours. Thirdly, competition is quite serious with devices from Samsung 2024A series, Xiaomi's Redmi Note 13 lineup, and even devices not in this market, like the Google Pixel 7a. So while you consider getting one, there's a list of devices that are also fighting for your attention. The usual conclusion here is this: if this device is within your budget, and it is the device you're eyeing because of a particular feature or look that you're really drawn to, it is a good device that won't disappoint you. Tell me your thoughts on the device down below and remember to subscribe.